as you can see, Brandon is back. Went back, I looked over what we'd retro reviewed before. This is the first movie for the retro review where I have never seen this film before. It was a Brandon recommendation. Mm-hmm. After the open, we will talk about Flight. Before we discuss the movie Flight, let's talk about Everlasting Survivors. All Day Long, Volume 1, my 68-page graphic novel. There's a link to limited first printings in the description. If you don't have yours, you can follow the link and pick up a copy, and I'll send it straight to you. So, thank you, sir. Mm-hmm. As I said before we started this, I had never seen this movie before, and you recommended it. Why did you recommend Flight?
Man, this is just, to me, a solid film. It is sad because of the subject matter, what it's going to, but I think overall, I really like the story of a man coming to terms with his faults as a man, as a person, but also doing something miraculous and amazing. Like, that can't be denied.
Since you're going to talk, since you brought up miraculous and amazing, I've got to say that this movie, it very much made me intrigued by the concept of a bad person can do a good thing. And I just think that's a fun's the wrong word. It's a compelling thing to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, on that same subject of a bad person, this movie reminded me ever so slightly of The Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
Reason being is, most of the people here are bad people. Or maybe most is a strong word, but you know, what it does within Flight is it shows you that humans are flawed. Whether it be, as I literally jokingly put down in a note, cancer boy still smoking,
Yeah.
or the alcoholic not stopping drinking, or the drug addict. Now, granted, she tries her best to get things in the right direction, but my point is there are so many flawed humans doing flawed things. Mm-hmm. And the reason it reminded me of The Wolf of Wall Street is because within that film, it felt like so many flawed people were doing flawed things. And this is me jumping way, way ahead, and by that I mean to the absolute ending. I felt as though in The Wolf of Wall Street that it didn't feel like the guy really got it, right? So, like, there was a point, now granted I know it's based on a true story, but there was a point when I was like, oh, he should die right now. If he dies right now, I'm going to be happy because I'm like, that makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. But within this, even though, and maybe it is because he's a flawed human, maybe it's because of the big good thing that he did, but when he gave it up, when he said, I'm done. So, again, I'm going to jump to the ending. I said, I took so many notes, but, here we go. I've been lying about my drinking my whole life. So that was a note I took because I thought, that's a good line. And then, not immediately, but very shortly thereafter, he stops lying. And I'm like, that just seems so counterintuitive to the person that I am understanding you to be. Because there were so many times throughout where I was like, come on, Captain, come on, Denzel, stop. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my goodness, I was so on his side when he poured out every bit of liquor when he first got there. Yep. And then the minute he switches and goes back, I was like, come on, man. I mean, aside from wasting the money from the stuff you poured out, but like,
yes,
it's like you took a step forward, and now you're taking a step back.
Yes. I mean, he's giving so many opportunities. Don Cheadle's also in the movie.
I love his character.
Yeah, Don Cheadle was great. Even Don Cheadle's like,
he felt so much like me. And not me, the human, but me, the viewer. Mm-hmm. So I'm viewing this, and I'm like, I know you did a good thing, Denzel, or Captain.
Yes.
But man, you're doing a lot of bad stuff
Yes,
too.
yes,
And
literally.
he called him out on it. I was like, that's good.
Off of everything. He keeps calling him out. He's like, what you did, I think he said, we ran every computer program, every flight person tried to do and mimic what
And they
you
couldn't,
did,
yeah.
and they couldn't do it. What you did was nothing short of a miracle.
Yep.
But everything you do is a mess up. You keep screwing up. Now, John Goodman is hilarious. He is like the one act of like brevity.
Oh, absolutely.
Where he's just hilarious. He's Denzel's dealer.
Yep.
Yeah.
There are good characters, like you said. Don Cheadle's character is good, and
his friend.
Charlie, I feel like his name is.
Yeah.
Like they're good people, but they're not John Goodman, who is freaking hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And he just, anytime he's in the scene, it changes the entire flow of things.
Yeah, the tone just feels
exactly,
lighter.
yeah.
Because this movie is sad. I don't call it depressing because to me there are acts of.
Oh,
there
absolutely.
Are
Well,
separate
so like I
things
said about Cancer Boy, I don't know if I even caught his name, but the guy who has cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has a sad story, but he's a good addition to the story. And the same with Nicole, right? She's the heroin addict.
Yeah.
She has a sad story, but she also has a positive story. And she's actually, in my opinion, another positive about the captain. Because even though he's sending his life down the drain, he's helping her.
Her, right?
I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
What the heck, man? You're like, my life, nothing to it.
Right.
This heroin addict, you gotta get her on the right path.
Call him the kettle black.
Exactly.
Like literally. And yes, he helps her. But okay, so that's actually a little bit of my flaws with Nicole. Just this, I felt like she was going somewhere, and then they abruptly took her out of the movie. Like, you get what I mean? Like,
But that's again why it's so human. Oh, I didn't say this on the video. I said this to you in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle to rate this movie because it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like you're in the life of definitely the captain and at times other people as well. And the reason I liked her abrupt disappearance in the context of the way that I was viewing or having the viewing experience is, I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but I have a bad habit in my life of thinking that me and somebody are tight,
Close, yeah,
and
right.
then they just vanish off the face of the planet. You text them, they don't answer. You call them, it's like their phone broke. Maybe it did, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, friend out there, if you if we're still friends. And so when she just pieced out, I was like, at least she has a justification for leaving,
Okay.
which is she's trying her best to get good, and she can see that he's not.
Not right.
Whereas
Okay.
in my life, maybe I'm not getting good, and they just didn't tell me. But I too many times I have this, and honestly, it's one of the biggest fears of my life, that it's going to keep on and keep on happening. Which is that I think things are one way, and then one day I'm wrong.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so I wasn't opposed to her disappearing act
Okay.
because I've lived it too many times.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I struggle because to me there is not necessarily an antagonist in this movie. Not like your
Oh yeah,
typical-
there's no villain.
Right.
It's so funny because again, I had never seen this. You talked to me about how that you had a friend who thought it was a comedy.
action movie.
Action, my bad. Yeah.
From the trailer, he thought from the trailer was going to be an action movie.
So, and from the way I viewed the trailer, I thought it was going to be an episode of Law and Order or Bull or more courtroom-driven drama.
Okay.
Then when I watched it, and we are only in the courtroom for what, 3 minutes?
Right at the end,
Yeah,
at the very end.
I was
Right.
blown away, and that's part of one of my major complaints about this film is not the lack of courtroom, but my preconceived notions for what Flight would be. I conceived from their trailer a movie primarily about the flight.
Yes, correct.
However, and I thought, okay, that's how we're going to justify the title, is because we're going to keep referring back to it in the courtroom drama.
Mhm.
We're going to say, if you'd have only done this in the flight, or if that hadn't occurred during the flight. But unbeknownst to me, this movie should not be called Flight. I actually think that it should be called The Most Fascinating Person I've Never Met, which is a line that the captain's son says to him in the closing scene. That's important because it's ambiguous, one, but it's also able to be viewed from the perspective of the drug dealer, the drug addict, the cancer patient. It's the clear awakening of yourself to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And now maybe had they gone this route, they would have had to have emphasized more characters than just Denzel, because clearly Captain Whitaker, played by Denzel Washington, is the primary character. And under my concept of calling it the most fascinating person I've never met, maybe you would have had to have leaned into some of the other characters a little heavier.
Yeah.
But I still think Flight was such a disingenuous title, because it's like, yes, we're in the flight in the early period,
but it's not about that.
But it's not about that. It's about the struggle of the human to break their habit.
Right, of his addiction.
And he's so many ways.
Right, he's an addict. And,
yeah.
Yeah, as he comes to terms with it, when he finally breaks at the courtroom.
Well, and that habit he's breaking isn't the drugs and the alcohol, but it's the lying. Because like I said, he's been lying his whole life about these problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just on top of itself, like I said, maybe breaking the habit's a fine title. I don't know, but Flight just felt so...
Yeah, it's not a correct... It's like Drive.
Yes.
Drive, you would think that Drive is this action movie. It's about a guy driving. It is not about
it's
that.
Not about
it should be called something else.
Exactly.
But it's one of those short titles, like, just call it Flight. And, and it'll
move
sell.
on, yes. Yeah.
Right. And I actually do agree with that, because the trailer doesn't show that he's really an addict. It shows like, oh, the flight in this plane,
Absolutely.
and people are talking to him about it. But it's really not. It's not about that. That's just, you see what he does, but it's about his addiction, his habits, and him coming to terms with that. And for me, I like that personal story, like with Unbreakable. Unbreakable is very, very personal.
Absolutely.
And I feel like Flight is personal, but the negative aspects of someone who is, let's just say, amazing man. He really is, like, from the house, the things that he's done, you're like, this is by far a really amazing man. Everybody loves him when they meet him.
Yeah.
He's just so magnetic.
I love the scene where throughout the whole film, he's avoiding the media. And there's a scene where he goes home to his ex-wife and son. And don't get me wrong, the inside scene is powerful, but the thing that blew me away is when he stepped out and was able to turn it on a dime. And it kind of reminded me of my parents arguing as a kid. So if my parents would have an argument as a kid and the phone rang, instantly, no matter who answered the phone, it's paradise up in here.
You're like,
I'm like, who the heck are you? What just happened?
You guys are screaming each other's heads, like about to go to blows. And now, hi, oh my gosh.
And so it's so puzzling to me, both in the real life way that it went and in the show, where I don't know if I could have been so composed or as composed as he was, knowing that my son
hates you.
at minimum looks down on you,
right.
at, like you said, possibly hates you, and then you just step out and you be like, hey guys, leave them be. Everything's gonna be a-okay. I was like, man, dude, you're
because when your son, imagine viewers, like your son or your child steps to you and telling you to get out, and then your guys are arguing, hugging at you, and then he grabs you and holds you and says, you don't even know who the heck I am. Well, he doesn't say heck.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then all of a sudden you open up a door and cameras, lights, and you just switch it.
Yeah.
Right there. It's like, hey, we're going through something, right? Yeah.
And I think that goes back to or leads into the ending with the I've been lying about this my whole life, because that to me is one of the strongest lies that he did, even though it wasn't a verbal lie of like, because he was honest that things are rough, but he wasn't as honest as he needed to be with everything that was going down. So I think that might have been even the biggest lie, because let's be honest, I'll never drink again, when none of us believed that lie after we saw him.
Right.
So it's like, it is what it is.
But then I love also, there is when he's, okay, so he's going to different flight attendants and he's asking them, he's like, on my behalf, and he's guilt tripping them.
Oh yeah.
He's like, his friend who was there and helping him do the switches.
That stuff was mind blowing, and like, I didn't cry, but it hit me when he was like, tell your son you love him. Because it was like,
I love you, Trevor. Yeah.
And then when you meet Trevor, my goodness.
Yes. And he's like, I saved Trevor. I saved you so you can meet Trevor.
Yeah.
Lie. Yeah. And you could see that she doesn't want to, because she's like...
Well, but she did, though.
Right, she did.
Because it wasn't until he told the truth that he even was going to
Right. If you did, spoiler alert. Go watch the movie. I recommend it. Like I said, this movie is hard to rate because it is sad. It's not something that you just put in like, ooh,
Well,
let's pop in flight.
To me, it's not so much that it's sad. Like, there are things that I've been happy sad and sad sad. This was hard to rate because it's so real.
Real. Okay.
The reality of it, whether it's the guy with cancer saying people either look away or act as though they're looking at the other side when they look at me, I was like, my goodness, man, that feels like something I could believe. And then the heroin girl, man, when she's all like, you know, hey, I'm an addict. It's what I do. And I was like, everything about it just felt so genuine. And that's the
maybe that should win the title of the movie.
Genuine, yeah.
Yeah, that is. But yeah, I mean, this courtroom scene, I personally almost tear up every time I see it because you can see that all he has to do is lie one more time, and he is clear of everything. Because in the beginning of the movie, it's his girlfriend, woman on the side, however you want to.
Yeah.
But
they're having a good time.
Yeah, a very good time. And
I know that Randy from My Name Is Earl was super jealous.
Yes.
I mean, she might have been his wife, but he wasn't being like that like Denzel was.
Yes. And he could just lie on her.
Absolutely.
But she dies in the plane crash because she unbuckles herself and she saves a little boy.
It's crazy. I love that.
And she's flying all the way around and she dies.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, so are you saying that I think her name was Catalina? Yeah, are you saying that Catalina?
No, she's Katrina. Catalina is her name in My Name Is Earl.
Okay.
And I know that because he called her Trina.
Okay. Yes. And they're like, hey, so are you saying that she was drunk? And he's like, and you can see him sweating bullets, and he's like, oh my God. And Don Cheadle, they're like, dude, you've lied all this time.
You literally lied to me last night.
Right.
Literally last night.
Yes, literally. We put makeup and stuff on so you don't look as drunk as what you are. And they're like, just do it. Just this once. And then, he's like, God help me.
Yeah.
And then she's like, sorry, I can't. He was like, I didn't because she didn't drink the vodka because I drank the vodka.
Yeah.
And everyone's like,
and he's like, I was drunk the night before, the night after, every day. I was drunk this morning.
Yeah, and I'm drunk now. And I'm like, wow. And he's broken up and he's teary-eyed. And, he goes to jail for it. Rightfully so or unjustly because it was a plane malfunction. They did prove that, though.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But he still did a thing that he ought not to have done.
Yes, I was talking to our coworker about that because I told him about the ending. He's like, well, why did he go to jail if there was a plane malfunction? I was like, you can't just be drunk.
Oh, yeah.
And high.
The same concept goes for our actual job, right? Let's say that the building burns down and they're like, hey, did you do that? You're like, nah, but then they find out you were messed up. They're like, well, maybe you could have done something differently if you weren't messed up. Although in this case, I don't think you could have done it. You did the best he could.
Literally the best.
He did better than like 10 other people tried.
Yes.
But yeah, so there's one point in time where I took the note, this movie could have been called Sex, Drugs, and Funk Music.
Oh, yeah, because the soundtrack is rather funky.
It's so funny. Yeah. Like when he's listening to stuff at the house and drinking, and then him and Nicole, they're having a good time.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, but for me, I mean, I told Oz what I rated. I rated a 4. I think in certain areas might have been able to tighten it more and chop just a little bit for time.
So my thing is, this is the second time within recent history I thought about just scrapping the whole rating. Not scrapping it per se, but blowing it up because in the future, by the future I mean in the first thing we're reviewing as an all or nothing at the beginning of 2023, I already watched and took notes for. And there was a piece of that all or nothing where I was just like, I hate this with a burning passion. And there is not a low enough rating for it. And then inversely with this, like, it's definitely better than fine. I don't know if I would call it great. So I'm just going to land on a 4 as well and call it good. But, like I said, I don't even know what it is, per se, that could have changed my perception. But the fact is, it's so compelling. And like my little complaints here and there with the title and the him letting me down as if we know each other. We don't, but you know, I was like, Denzel, you're letting me down, man.
Yeah, especially for people just talking. That's all that they're doing. It's just talking.
Well, and here's the other crazy thing is like it isn't letting me down. He's letting himself down.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many times, the captain I think has made the right call. Even the night before, I'm like, I think, oh, he's done it. He's there. He's clean. He's been what do you say? 8 days, some odd hours, and so many minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clean. Well, even that night before, I was like, okay, he's finally done it. We're gonna get through this courtroom scene, and it's off to the races. Everything's good. And then you asked me a question off air if I thought that the adjacent room was an act of God that
or like evil force.
Evil force, of course.
Yeah.
So
scripting.
I, both in life and in the context of this film, do not attribute to malice or greater being that which I can attribute to stupidity.
Okay.
And because I can believe that somebody was stupid enough to leave their window open and their little door, it's not a door stopper, but the thing to where the door wouldn't shut all the way. Because I can believe that somebody was stupid enough to do that is what made me assume that it was just mere circumstance. And because of the circumstance, we got John Goodman back, so that was fun.
Yeah.
And I think that it was that final straw, that final push that it took for him to feel like, okay, it's over. It's done. And if he had not gotten screwed up the night before and that morning, maybe he would not have been honest. And if he wasn't honest, then he'd go on living his life. And do you know how many times he drank and drove? Or drank while he was driving?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that made me mad.
Yeah, literally.
Like, and so as much as there was a period of time or a part of me that disliked him coming clean at the final minute because it didn't feel like him, I'm awfully pleased that he did because of the fact that it takes him away from the ability to hurt others.
Right, and I also like when he said
and himself too.
Everyone didn't forgive him.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and I'm like, that's realistic,
true.
that's
Yeah,
believable,
honest, yeah.
But he's come to terms with that. He's fine with that, and like for instance, his co-pilot,
dude, that guy was so. Again, everybody just feels so real. That guy himself, when I first meet him, I'm like, I believe this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and I don't mean no offense to this, but like a goody two shoes, like a guy who's just like. I washed my hands, I brushed my teeth, and we're off to the race. And everything. Like, he felt... And then when you meet his wife, and she's all like, oh, it was the Lord, and the Lord did it.
Yeah.
And it was like, lady, I did that.
Yeah, literally, yes. He's like, because...
He was like, I was there, and I did it.
He was
right there with me.
At a baptism. The plane landed,
exactly.
hit a church... the top of a church and landed in a baptism. So the pilot, his co-pilot's like, it's God.
Oh yeah.
So he's like fully, but it's hypocritical because he hates him.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, but you can't hate me if you're like of God. But it's so believable.
Well, he is paralyzed. So,
yeah,
yeah,
that's why I kind of like.
I don't know how paralyzed he is, but depending on how paralyzed he is, I'm like. I'm totally with you.
Yeah, and then I was like, well, you could be dead. Exactly. But that's why it's so great. Because he does have an argument.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. That is, speaking, like, this is totally off topic, but I was listening to people have an argument about political stuff, and they just kept going back and forth and back and forth. At some point, I think that you just have to be like, and we have different opinions. Mm-hmm. Because that's the way I felt about most of these people, because most of these people are that most of these people are just bad or have some flaw.
Yes.
And humans have flaws, and that's why it felt so dang real. Because even the people who are good in the co-pilot way, he's still not perfect because, like you said, he hates the guy. He looked down upon him the minute he stepped on the plane. Even, and like they said, oh, have we ever flown together before? No, but it's the minute I see you, problems. Mm-hmm. So it's, I enjoy how real the people are, but it's also something I struggle with. Like, people know from the channel itself, I love fantasy. Like, I have written fantasy. I am a big fan of it. And I recommend that you pick up My Fantasy, Everlasting Survivors, Volume 1, all day long, available, limited first printings available at Etsy.com. But the reason I bring this up is because I tried to infuse real things or real characteristics within the fantasy world, and that's something that Flight did really well. Is like these people are human through and through, and so yeah, I recommend people watch it because it is very good.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 2 thumbs up. However, Brandon stamps of approval.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Come back and we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, thank you.